Welcome to Bikes, Boats, and Bivouacs. Today, we're checking out the Boyertown Museum of Historic Vehicles in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. So join me as we take a tour. When you first enter the museum, you come into a rather large room where you can gather for tours to be taken. The museum does have a small gift shop where you can pick up some of the old symbols from when it was an operating business, and they also have shirts and those kinds of items. One of the cool things you're going to see in here is an old-fashioned stainless steel diner that was Fegley's Diner just outside of Reading, and it was restored and is at the museum. And when they open it up, you eat and drink the food based on the prices from back in the 50s when the diner was open. So that's kind of cool. You get a piece of pie for 25 cents. Is in the building where they did actually create and manufacture some of their items. So in addition to the vehicles that are in here, the building itself has a lot of antique and auto history. Reading Standard Bicycle Company started to manufacture motorcycles for a short period of time, and here we see some examples of them. Of course, Harley would fit in this one in the sidecar. We can see some of the old carriages that were made. Conestoga wagon was built in Bern Township, which is about 45 minutes from Boyertown where my daughter lives, and these wagons were built up there, and they do have them on display here in the museum. You can see a hearse drawn by horses. Of course, a lot of coal used back in the 1800s, and they needed a way to deliver it before trucks. And here we see a wagon that would deliver coal. This box buggy was built by the Swinehart family prior to it becoming Boyertown Auto Body Works. Here we see a huckster wagon. These were built in Hamburg by Hamburg Carriage Works. Hamburg is about maybe 40 minutes from the Boyertown area. This is a hose cart built in 1899. This particular cart was used by the Washington, Shillington, Grill, and Penguin Fire Companies, which are all small communities in the area. And this is, of course, how they get the fire hose where they needed it prior to the fire trucks. Of course, this is a fire pumper wagon. Many of you may have heard of Doria and the Doria Hill Climb, and we have a bunch of their vehicles here for you to take a look at. Doria built these vehicles in Reading, Pennsylvania, again about 40 minutes away. And of course this one was built in 1904 and had an astronomical 12 horsepower. Three-wheeler kind of looks like a little motorcycle. Dragon touring cars were built in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is about 50 miles east of here. Of course, the Biddle vehicles were also built in Philadelphia. These Biddles were built in the 1915, 1918 range, and we see a lot of advancement to almost up to today's standard as far as the look and the style of these vehicles. This is a Daniels touring car, and this was built in 1922, and really a heavy vehicle. Building Reading, it was a custom car, so not inexpensive. Here's a 1920 Daniels. Mr. Daniels had worked for General Motors prior to coming to the Reading area as an industrialist. Because Autocar was a company in Ardmore, Pennsylvania, about 50 miles here, just outside of Philadelphia. Victoria Coupe was owned by the individual who started Boyertown Body Works and his wife. And of course, they also started the museum and donated this to the collection. So down the road in Chester, PA, near the Philadelphia airport, Ford had a plant, and they built a lot of the frames down there that Ford used in the late 1920s. This Model T was actually built in Philadelphia at the factory they had on Broad Street. Eventually it was closed, but this particular unit came from that factory. Here we see the Pullmans, built in York, Pennsylvania. When Doria went out of business, Middleby bought the plant to continue production, and this is one of his vehicles. This vehicle was produced by Autocar. However, it was sold in the Sears catalog. A small company called the Dial Motor Company produced this Model A. It's a beautiful vehicle. Another vehicle builder, actually James Reber built bicycles first and then decided to try his hand at automobiles. SGV, another Reading manufacturer, built really expensive vehicles. This vehicle in today's dollars is about $82,000, is $3,500 back in 1912. But here we see some really beautiful works of art. Notice that these vehicles built in Reading, the coach was built by Fleetwood Metal Body, which eventually was bought by Fisher and became part of General Motors. So these vehicles also Fleetwood, Pennsylvania had a hand in building these because they partnered with some of these companies to put the bodies together, much like the Boyertown Body Works did for commercial applications. What goes around comes around. 1919 Detroit electric vehicle. Now, one of the interesting points here is, even though this is a Model T Ford, the commercial application to use this in business was done here at the Boyertown Carriage Works. So we start to see the evolution of a business where they're taking existing vehicles and altering them for very specific applications. Here we see some of the commercial applications where the Boyertown Body Works took standard vehicle frames and then altered them to satisfy their customers. The first one we see here is a fire truck. of the units that they really became famous for was creating these trolleys that were on bus frames or truck frames. And when I was in school, this is what I remember the Boyertown Auto Body Works most for, seeing these stacked up in their lots as they were building these and delivering these to cities to use for tourist operations. Of course, everybody remembers the ice cream truck, and a lot of these were done right here in Boyertown. Here we have an electric truck built in 1979 by Boyertown Auto Body Works. So we see maybe 20, 30 years ahead of their time. Here is a postal vehicle built on a Ford frame by the Boyertown Auto Body Works, and they had ordered 2,500 of these at the time. There's a half-ton M14. The engine by International Harvester in the frame, but the body built here by the Boyertown Auto Body Works. Built on a Chevy truck frame, Huckster truck by Rhodes Fruit. I know a Rhodes that had a fruit farm. I'm not sure if that's the same family. Got to find out. Here they built a butcher shop on wheels here at the Boyertown Auto Body. Here we see the collection of Bantam Roadsters. Now, these vehicles were built in Butler, Pennsylvania, which is well west of here. This is a 1920 Packard, and what's important to know about Packard is bodies of these vehicles were made in Fleetwood, Pennsylvania. Here we see the LaSalle 1928 LaSalle convertible coupe, again made in Detroit, Michigan, but the body made right here in Fleetwood, Pennsylvania, just up the street. Here we see an original Sun Oil Company gas station that's been preserved as it was back in the day. We'll take a look at that. Price of gas, pretty cheap. Next, we're coming up on the diner. This is Fegley's Diner from Reading, Pennsylvania, and in the not too distant past, this was still operating as a diner. As a matter of fact, I used to eat lunch at this diner in the late 1980s once or twice a week. So a lot of memories. And what I remember most about this diner, the French apple pie. I wanted to order different pies, but it was so good, I kept ordering the same piece of pie when I would go in. Well, not the same piece of pie, but you know what I mean. The same slice, because it was so good. And we would call down to make sure they just came out of the oven before we'd head down for lunch. Enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the channel. It's free, it helps me out a lot. Also, if you ring that bell, you'll be notified every time I put up a new video. And give the video a thumbs up, that helps also. But more important than all that, go have some fun out there. Hey, thanks for watching.